Georgetown shutdown, Toyota to close Kentucky plant, 10,000 jobs lost. The news hit like a thunderclap, reverberating through every corner of the state. That headline flashed across screens just before dawn, sending shockwaves through the state. Families gathered around televisions, their morning routines interrupted by disbelief and fear. On a cold January morning in 2026, thousands of Toyota workers woke to a single chilling email: the Georgetown plant would close. The news spread quickly, and the air outside the factory was thick with anxiety and uncertainty. For nearly 40 years, this factory was the pride of Kentucky, a symbol of American manufacturing, resilience, and community spirit. Generations of families had built their lives around its steady hum. The message was cold, direct, and final. Permanent closure, phase shutdown, global market realignment. There was no room for hope or negotiation. Maria Sanchez, a single mother and quality control worker, stared at the email in disbelief. She had given her best years to Toyota, believing in the promise of stability. This job was her family's foundation. Every paycheck had meant food on the table, school supplies, and a future for her children. The promise of severance packages felt hollow against the tidal wave of fear. Bills and uncertainty piled up in her mind, drowning out any sense of security. Across Scott County, the same scene played out. Routines shattered, futures uncertain. The news rippled through neighborhoods, leaving a sense of loss in its wake. David Chen, a robotics technician, felt betrayed after 20 years of loyalty. He had trained new hires, adapted to every change, and now faced an uncertain future. He'd believed in the promise of lifetime employment, only to be left with a notification and a blank slate. The sense of security he once felt was gone in an instant. The shock quickly turned to anger. Workers gathered in small groups, voices rising as they tried to make sense of the decision. How could this happen to the largest Toyota plant in the world? The question echoed in every conversation, unanswered and haunting. The factory had weathered downturns before, but this felt different, permanent. The machines that once symbolized progress now stood silent, gathering dust. As the sun rose, the plant stood eerily silent. The usual bustle of workers and machinery was replaced by an unsettling stillness. For the first time in a generation, Georgetown's heart had stopped beating. The town's identity, so closely tied to the plant, was suddenly in question. The email had done its work. It had delivered not just news, but a sense of finality that settled over the town like a heavy fog. The day the town stood still had begun. Streets that once bustled with life were now empty, as if time itself had paused. The closure wasn't just a business decision, it was a personal catastrophe for thousands. Families clung to each other, searching for comfort in the face of the unknown. The plant's silence echoed through homes, schools, and businesses. Every corner of Georgetown felt the impact, from classrooms to corner stores. Georgetown's identity, built on decades of hard work, was suddenly in jeopardy. The memories of parades, celebrations, and shared victories now felt distant. The community faced a future none had prepared for. Conversations turned to survival, to hope, and to what might come next. The day began with loss, and a question: what comes next? The uncertainty was overwhelming, but the people of Georgetown knew they had to face it together. The answer, for now, was silence. The halls of the factory and the streets of the town waited for a sign, any sign, of what the future might hold. The town braced for the ripple effect. Every business, every family, every dream was now at risk, caught in the wake of a single decision. The nightmare had only just begun. For Georgetown, the hardest days were still ahead, and the path forward was uncertain. The news spread through Georgetown like wildfire, igniting a wave of shock and disbelief that swept through every corner of the town. By morning, the entire community was reeling. Neighbors gathered on porches and sidewalks, sharing anxious glances and whispered conversations. The Toyota plant wasn't just an employer, it was the town's economic engine and identity. For decades, its presence had shaped Georgetown's destiny, providing stability and pride. At the local diner, plates sat untouched. Conversations were hushed, eyes filled with worry. The usual morning bustle was replaced by a heavy silence. "What are we going to do now?" a waitress whispered. Her family depended on the plant, and she wasn't alone. Many in town faced the same uncertainty. The impact was immediate. For every job inside, several more outside depended on Toyota. The plant's closure sent shockwaves through the local economy. Local suppliers, truck drivers, and small businesses all faced the same grim reality. The loss rippled outward, touching every livelihood. The owner of a hardware store watched the empty street. "Half my business is from plant employees. This is a death sentence for me, too." His words echoed the fears of many. The emotional toll matched the economic one. Georgetown had built its life around Toyota's promise, weaving it into the fabric of daily life and community events. Generations had counted on stable jobs, bought homes, and invested in the community. Now, that sense of security was gone, replaced by anxiety and doubt. "They told us we were family," a union rep said, and then cut us loose with an email. The sense of betrayal ran deep, leaving workers feeling abandoned. Fear for the future took hold. Young families worried about mortgages. Parents feared for their children's prospects. Dreams of college and stability now seemed distant. The local high school's guidance counselor was flooded with calls. The path to a good job, once clear, was gone, leaving students and parents searching for new direction. The closure erased more than jobs. It erased certainty and hope. Families sat together in silence, unsure of what tomorrow would bring. The community mourned its past and feared its future. Candlelight vigils became a way to grieve together, to find comfort in shared loss. Georgetown's story was now one of loss, anxiety, and searching for answers. The laughter of children on playgrounds faded, replaced by worried conversations. The town's foundation had cracked. What once felt unbreakable now seemed fragile and uncertain. The ripple effect was just beginning. Each day brought new challenges as more businesses struggled to stay afloat. The question lingered: how would Georgetown survive? Town leaders and families alike searched for solutions, but answers were hard to find. The answer would define a generation. Georgetown's resilience would be tested, and its future would depend on the strength of its people. To truly grasp the pain of what happened, you must first understand what Toyota meant to Georgetown, Kentucky, a small town with big dreams and a tight-knit community. Before Toyota arrived, Georgetown was mostly farmland, dotted with abandoned barns and fading prospects. The town's future seemed uncertain, and many families worried about what lay ahead. The plant's arrival in the 1980s was a thunderbolt of hope, the largest private investment in Kentucky's history. Suddenly, Georgetown was on the map and optimism swept through the community. Toyota brought thousands of jobs, a sense of pride, and the promise of a new future. Families celebrated as opportunities blossomed and the town began to thrive. The plant quickly became a model of efficiency, blending innovative Japanese manufacturing methods with Kentucky grit and determination. It was a place where cultures met and learned from each other. The Toyota way, teamwork, continuous improvement, and respect for people became part of the local culture, shaping how people worked and lived. Toyota invested in local schools, charities, and parks. It was woven into Georgetown's fabric, supporting everything from education to the environment and building a stronger community. A job at TMMK was a golden ticket, offering good wages, excellent benefits, and a clear path to the middle class. It changed lives and lifted families for generations. "My dad worked the mines. I gave my kids a better life here," said a second-generation worker, reflecting the hope and progress Toyota brought to so many. The plant became a source of state pride, proof that Kentucky could compete on a global stage and build world-class products. Dignitaries and leaders from across the country visited to witness American manufacturing at its best, shining a spotlight on Georgetown. The closure wasn't just an economic loss. It shattered a symbol of hope, partnership, and the dreams of countless families who had built their lives around the plant. For nearly 40 years, Toyota defined Georgetown, shaping its identity and future with every car that rolled off the line. Now, that era has ended. The promise that once united a town and changed so many lives has been broken, leaving a community searching for what comes next. The closure was the result of global forces years in the making. Trade wars and tariffs drove up costs for Toyota's just-in-time system. Building a Camry in Kentucky became more expensive, not because of labor, but tariffs on parts. Retaliatory tariffs shrank export markets, squeezing the plant from both ends. Meanwhile, global demand shifted to SUVs and electric vehicles. Georgetown, tied to sedans and not ready for EVs, became less viable. Toyota made a cold calculation: cut losses in Kentucky, invest elsewhere. The irony: Toyota isn't leaving America, just Kentucky. While Georgetown closes, a new high-tech Toyota plant thrives in Huntsville, Alabama. The Alabama plant is flexible, automated, and built for the future: SUVs, hybrids, and more. Alabama offered incentives, workforce training, and a partnership for next-gen manufacturing. Retooling Georgetown for EVs was too costly. Building new in Alabama made more sense. The non-union workforce and labor laws also appealed to Toyota. Georgetown's loyalty was no match for economic strategy. The community felt replaced and forgotten. The shutdown ignited a fierce national debate on trade policy. Protectionists blamed bad trade deals, calling for tariffs to protect American jobs. Free traders argued tariffs backfired, raising costs and hurting workers. For Georgetown's unemployed, the debate was no comfort, just more rhetoric. Both sides had points, but neither offered real solutions. The shutdown showed trade policy isn't a blunt instrument. Tariffs meant to help one industry can destroy another. Georgetown's workers became casualties of a policy debate, fought with slogans, not strategy. The answers weren't simple. The pain was real. At the heart of the closure is a story of technology and timing. The auto industry is shifting to electric vehicles, a revolution Georgetown wasn't ready for. Building EVs requires new factories, supply chains, and skills. Toyota chose to invest in new EV plants elsewhere, leaving Georgetown behind. Retraining programs were offered, but for many, starting over was daunting. The new jobs were far away, and retraining felt like a lifeline after the ship had sunk. The future demanded change. Georgetown couldn't deliver. The plant was stranded in the past. The workers faced an uncertain tomorrow. Georgetown's tragedy is a wake-up call for America. Relying on a single employer is risky in a fast-changing world. Trade policies must be strategic, stable, and forward-thinking, not reactionary. America needs to invest in lifelong learning and robust retraining before, not after, crisis hits. Community colleges, apprenticeships, and partnerships must prepare workers for the jobs of the future. Government, industry, and labor must collaborate, not compete. The goal: build resilient, innovative regional economies, not single factory towns. Georgetown's pain must be our lesson. The blueprint for American industry must change. The time to act is now. Georgetown's story isn't over. The coming years will be hard, but resilience defines Kentucky. The path forward isn't about restoring the past, but forging a new future together. The community must unite, leaders, agencies, and neighbors, to support those affected. Diversification and innovation are key. Georgetown must build a new economy, not rely on a single giant. The region's strengths, work ethic, skills, location, are assets for renewal. The goal: a resilient, diverse economy, not a single mighty oak. This is a story of hope, tough, determined, and forward-looking. The closure is a painful chapter, but not the last. By learning its lessons, Georgetown can write a new future for all Americans.